Good morning, everybody. I want to talk to you today about something that might seem a little bit surprising or counterintuitive to a lot of you, and that is why you should stop doing guided meditations. And now let me start by saying I recognize the irony of me saying this because I have put out guided meditations. Some of you have even found me here or in different apps or channels through my guided meditations. But I'm really serious about this as my own teaching has developed and learned about what I'm doing. So what I want to share with you today is a little bit about why, and I'll even share with you what I'm doing to show you that I'm really serious about this as an approach to really deepening a really truly healing practice of guided meditation. Now, so let me say a little bit about why I'm suggesting this. And let me start by saying, I think that guided meditations are sort of like giving you a Band-Aid when what you need is major surgery. It's actually, I've come to kind of see it as, yeah, we all kind of like it. Maybe we're drawn to it, and maybe even I would go so far as to say guided meditations can be helpful for a while in your journey of deepening a daily practice of contemplative prayer and meditation. But at some point, if you really want to go into the deep healing and get the full experience, you've got to kind of tear off the Band-Aid, to follow that metaphor, and not just kind of keep putting patches over it, but we need to get deep into the underlying issues that are causing the stress and the anxiety and the overwhelm at the surface level. And the only way to do that is to really take on a practice for yourself and make it your own. If you think about whether you've listened to my guided meditations or maybe lots of others, there are tons of them out there on different apps, things like that. All of those teachers have gone in and they have their own practice. Now, I have my own approach and way that I've been formed in my own practice that's grounded in centering prayer and meditation, and that tends to be what I teach. But every teacher is in there, they've worked with somebody who has taught them a practice that they've learned to do on their own and that they're doing every day. They're not listening to guided meditation, so why should you? You should get the same quality and healing and depth as the people out there who are doing this. And it's the hard part, right, is like sometimes you just don't know where to start, and that's why we go to guided meditations. And that's fine, that makes sense. It gets us in the door. It can give you a taste of what it feels like to really develop a practice. But when you're ready to do the deeper work and to give yourself over to a practice to allow it to really transform you from the inside out, and I would add to allow grace, to allow God to transform you from the inside out, then at some point you're going to have to tear off that Band-Aid. You're going to have to take off the training wheels. I mean, pick your metaphor, whatever it is. Now, there's a couple different reasons that I want to explore. I want to explore this from the standpoint of what we know about some of the neuroscience and the psychology of what happens when we do a daily practice of prayer and meditation. And then I want to come at it from kind of a theological or spiritual lens as well, to help you understand why I'm suggesting this and why I'm going to keep emphasizing this in my own teaching and coaching that I'm doing. Okay, so from a neuroscience standpoint, when we use language, and that's what we're doing when we're doing a guided meditation, right? You're usually listening to some words of a person. When we use language, we're using the left part of our brain, and many of you are probably familiar with the left brain, right brain divide, that dichotomy. And when we are in that kind of space of words and language, we're activating the left rational brain. The real kind of healing and integration that happens, what we now know, is that the deeper layers of our brain and even down into our body, where a lot of our memories are stored, and particularly our traumatic memories or difficult memories. So if you have trauma, or maybe you don't think of it as like full trauma, but just what Thomas Keating calls the emotional wounds of a lifetime, those we know are stored in the physical body throughout. And we can only access those areas that need healing. We cannot get there straight from the left brain. We have to go through the right brain, the kind of non-linear, not irrational, but non-rational, symbolic part of our right brain that then connects us down into the brainstem and to the rest of our entire body. So if you have some of that stuff that's being triggered throughout your day that's coming up, and again, we call it Thomas Keating calls it the emotional wounds of a lifetime. We might call it just your stuff, your junk that gets triggered and that comes up and that drives that stress. The only way to get there is to go through that right brain and down deep into there. And so that's kind of the neuroscience piece of it. it's interesting how it lines up with some of the deep theology and spirituality. St. John of the Cross, now he was a mystic writing in the 16th century, so 500 years ago, more than 500 years ago now, and he was writing about what he called accessing the deep caverns of feeling. Deep caverns of feeling, which are exactly what I think neuroscientists are talking about as these deep caverns where our emotional trauma and difficulties are stored in the body. And he talks about how it's only through silence that we can access those deep caverns of feeling. And more importantly, we just kind of, our job is to kind of just show up and do a practice that opens that full range of our experience and our brain and our body and our mind and our memories. Our job is to say yes to that. When we open to that, we make space, we make room. It's like we get out of the way so that God and grace and healing can work all the way down. And it works both ways. Grace kind of flows in, while simultaneously we are unloading and letting go of those wounds that are in the body. And what happens, both spiritually and neurologically, when we do that, is that those wounds, that we might have stored that are sort of covering up your heart and keeping you from, taking healthy risks or being present to the people that you love or following that new creative, innovative idea that feels just a little too scary for you to take that risk. If your heart is blocked by some of those things you're carrying in your body, it's going to be really hard. You're going to feel like you're constantly fighting with yourself. But when you get into a silent practice that you do on your own, and there are different methods, forms that we can teach to help you do that get you beyond the guided meditation, beyond the rational mind, into those deeper caverns of feeling. When you do that, you allow that grace to be healed, and then it can reintegrate so that those parts of you that were blocked before, that you were fighting against, now become integrated into the wholeness of your being. You're able to show up fully present. You're actually accessing more of the full range of your brain and your body and your mind, and even your experience and your skill and that inner wisdom that wants to flow through you, because you're present from head to toe. You're totally, engaged and open, and you're not holding or tensing or blocking the grace and the innovation and the presence that wants to flow through you. And that's where you start to show up in, whether it's in business or wherever you exercise leadership, as a parent, maybe in personal relationships. That's how you can show up with a different kind of energy. And the cool thing is that's really fun to watch, particularly when I'm working with clients who are starting this kind of silent or non-discursive, which means non-language based form of meditation, where you really enter into deep healing silence. The really cool moments are when, you have that healing yourself, but sometimes we're not even aware that that's happening, or it takes a while to kind of sink in or realize what's changing. The cool moments are when somebody that you love says to you, oh, it seems like you're not kind of freaking out the way you used to about X. Maybe it's a worry about money or stressing about work, or maybe it's just the ability to listen to your partner without kind of reacting or getting defensive. And I see it every single time. And I saw it with a client recently whose wife was like, you're actually listening to me. You're actually taking this stuff in instead of kind of fighting against it. And that's because he's doing this daily practice. He's allowing those internal resistances to be healed and let go that are deep in the body and reintegrated so that he's able to be present without kind of being reactive. And that's the magic. That's the beauty of centering for wisdom. Now, I mentioned before that I know that this is something I've put out before. And just to show you how serious I am about saying that you should move away from guided meditations, I've taken all of the guided meditations down from my website. And here's why. Ultimately, for me, my goal is to be as compassionate and helpful as possible to the people who want to go deep into a healing spiritual practice to inform their leadership. And I realized that giving people Band-Aids when you might really need that deeper spiritual surgery that we're talking about isn't compassion. It's actually allowing you to stay stuck at this level when your body and God and grace are calling you to these deeper and deeper levels. Now, if you're listening to this, you might be wondering, how do I know if I'm being called to that deeper level? And there are some classic signs. there are some classic signs that go back through the great mystics and writers in the traditions, and that I still see when I talk with people on breakthrough sessions, or when we get into doing this deeper work. And some of those signs are often the old ways that you used to pray or meditate start to feel like they're not working. And I put that in air quotes. So it's like, John of the Cross describes this as like a spiritual dryness or a spiritual aridity. It's like all the old forms and ways, and those might be personal ways of praying. They might be communal ways of praying. I talk to a lot of people who are like, I'm just not as connected to my church and my worship service as I used to be. And it's not that they want to leave their faith. They just aren't getting the nourishment that they need from it. So oftentimes it's that call, that pull, like there's something more here. There's something deeper calling, and I can't quite put my finger on it. But what I do know is that the things that I've been doing for my whole life or that I've been taught aren't working anymore. And I can tell you there's a whole world of this contemplative wisdom that I've really given myself over for the last 20 years because it's just my passion and apparently the gift that God has given me to want to share with you and with anybody who's interested. There is this whole world of resources and simple practices that you can start integrating to help you navigate that inner world, that inner healing, and even at levels that you don't consciously understand, to have some guidance, to get in there, to know how to do a silent, non-discursive practice, a centering practice that facilitates and makes room for God to go to work, and then to bring all of those fruits of healing and integration back out into the world. And I can tell you that there's so much good down in there that all of us, it's the human condition. We all have it, right? We all have these gifts and experiences. And the cool thing is that sometimes even the, like the traumas or the difficult situations that you are carrying around in your body that have been blocking your heart, when you do this work, you start to realize that those are actually the gift, because once they're healed and integrated, suddenly you have this ability to connect with other people at a deeper level because of your pain. But you have to do that inner work first, or better to say, you have to allow God and the Holy Spirit to do that work for you so that you can show up, and it becomes almost effortless after a while. The effort simply becomes staying true to the practice, doing it every day, showing up, saying yes, letting that healing happen. And the thing is, it doesn't end. So you might do, intensive work with me or somebody else to get in and learn a practice. And there are these moments, these aha moments that can happen where like, oh my goodness, my life is changing. My relationships are changing. I'm getting better results with my team at work, whatever it might be. But that doesn't mean you're done, because it's the human condition. John of the Cross, when he talks about those deep caverns of feeling, he says, because that's the point of contact with God, and because God is infinite, the work that we do there is always, it's going to be infinite for as long as we are in this human body. So you can learn a simple practice. It doesn't take very long. It's not that complicated, but we just need a guide. We need a coach. We need a community to help support us through that, and get you in there and doing it and learning it, because people get in there and they're like, I think I'm doing this wrong. I think I'm screwing it up. I think I suck at this. And I just keep telling people over and over again, A, you can't do it wrong. You can't fail as long as you show up. And B, whatever your experience is, it's the human condition. It's totally normal. The key is to switch off that judging, that rational, critical left brain mind. Allow yourself to get into that silent, non-discursive practice where you are deepening presence, and grace is working at deeper and deeper levels. And once you get on that trajectory, then you're set up for your entire life to keep doing this on your own and know exactly why it's healing and why it's helping. So that's why I am taking down my guided meditations from my own website, and I am going to be emphasizing and teaching and suggesting that you stop doing guided meditations. If any of those moments of feeling called to something deeper are resonating with you, then I want to offer and suggest that you, trying to post something here, trying to multitask, but I want to invite you to book a free breakthrough session with me. And what I do on these breakthrough sessions is ask you questions really kind of along the lines of what I've been talking about here today, to see, where is the Spirit guiding you? Are you at this point where you're ready for this kind of this leap into the silent land, as Martin Laird calls it? This leap into deeper healing, into transforming your work and your relationships. So that's really what I do, is mostly ask questions and listen and help you get clarity on where you are. Then we get some clarity on where you want to be. And if that's something that I feel like we can help you get there, then I'll discuss that with you. And if it's not, that's fine too. And I will even look for other resources that might be able to help you. So I've put the link up there if that's interesting and something that you are feeling that call to move from, not because the left rational brain is bad, but because there's something deeper and more healing and more powerful that you're feeling called to, then go ahead and click that link. It's thomasjbushlack.com/apply. And again, that'll take you to a page where you can book a session with me or one of my teammates. We'll help you get that clarity, and we'll see if you're ready to take that deeper dive and find that deeper healing. It's really powerful for those who are ready, so I'm super excited for those of you who are ready for that and have the courage, yes, it does take courage to click that link and book your session. We look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks for listening, and in the meantime, just think about where that Spirit is calling you deeper, beyond the guided meditations, beyond the rational mind, into something deeper and more powerful. All right, great to be with you all this morning. Thanks, take care, and have a blessed day.